Second Chance project has been funded by the European Regional Development Fund, which is being implemented through, where in the frame of the Central Europe program, there was a possibility to implement projects like the Second Chance project. And for me, it is actually a great pleasure to be here today, as for the last more than 3 years, I've been accompanying the project in its implementation and seeing how the project is progressing. And it is great to stand at the final conference to see that the project has achieved its goals, has brought forward and developed a lot of knowledge that it has allowed to exchange the knowledge between the different institutions being involved. To stand here in this hall, which has been renovated and established, and seeing that it is actually being used, as we've heard this morning, there have been already more than 100 events taking place in this hall, but also to see that there are so close connections between the 5 Central European cities, not only between the administrations, but between people, because in the end, it is all about people, it's all about you, and it is this linking up and exchanging and having the pleasure of working together, and I'm very pleased that the Central Europe program was able to give a platform to such a project, which, as we've heard also in other presentations, is like, I would say, groundbreaking in the sense that it is taking up a topic which is coming more and more up to the scene and up to the forefront of what you're doing in urban planning in a greater sense, also in a participatory approach. So this makes me very happy, and I can only congratulate all of you that during the last 45 months you have worked so intensively to reach this result. Yes, exactly. That's for you. Just for those who are not so aware, what is actually transnational cooperation? We've heard a lot about European projects and European programs. There's a multitude of financing possibilities. Here we are talking about a transnational cooperation project. And the Central Europe program is a transnational cooperation program. And at the beginning I was asked to hold a presentation on the future of the Central Europe program, to outline future funding possibilities. But I have to tell you that I can't. The future is ongoing. The future is not yet decided. As you know, there is not even yet a budget decided at European level for the programming or for the period of 2014-2020. So if you break it all down until you get at some point then to a cooperation program, we don't know yet the budget, we don't know yet the territory. But, and this is maybe the reason why I'm going to show you the following slides and outline to you some of the points. If you want to have an idea how the future can look like, you have to look at the present, because I'm pretty sure that the future program will not be that different from the current program. It will be maybe, the territory will maybe be a bit larger, but in the end, the main idea and the main principles are the same and are valid. So if you look at the current program, for example, what is this transnational cooperation program? It is about having in one program area where partners can cooperate and work together, working in 8 languages and covering 9 countries. You have more than 80 cities and regions which are in this territory. So there is a lot of potential. There has been a lot of potential, but there will also be a lot of potential in the future. In the current program, we have now more than 1,300 partner institutions cooperating and working together, which are a lot of exchanges taking place, and in the end, and that's the important part, and especially a project like Second Chance, and the acceptance, I would say, by the population also to getting into the sites which have been reopened, is the population who is benefiting. So if you're taking the population of the entire Central Europe space, we're talking about around 150 million people which are, or who are benefiting from what you are doing in your daily work. Just as an idea, in the current program, the program had 230 million euros as ERDF money. We funded 124 projects, and the average project size was of close to 2 million, lasted 3 years. So Second Chance was at the upper end, I would say, from the projects which we have been supporting. Normally they have 10 to 11 partners, and also if in the future you're working on cooperation programs, I would recommend to you to stick to that level, because it is, as you know, it is not always simple to cooperate with many partners, and we are seeing obviously that if you are going into a project with 20 partners, the cooperation is difficult, and in the end it is about what you are achieving and doing it. And I think 10, 11 is the ideal size for doing that. And in general, projects have already had in the Central Europe program around 6 countries being involved. There's members from 6 countries. The minimum in order to get funding is being at least members from 3 countries. So you see that even though the limit is set at 3 countries, the wish is there to get further cooperation, further exchange with more countries, that in the end we ended up with an average of 6 countries being involved in each of the projects being supported. We have been talking about cooperation. Cooperation you can also show on a map. If you see this cooperation which is being shown here is the cooperation in the frame of the Central Europe program, in the frame of our 124 projects. So it is aggregated at regional level, but if you take the size of the dots, the biggest size or the biggest dots are 49 or more projects of that region, institutions being involved in projects of that regions being involved. Or if you take the thick lines, you see the number of linkages between regions, and as you can see, the cooperation is quite intense. There is a core area really here at the center where through this program alone, and there are many other possibilities to cooperate also in this space, but you see that there is a number of linkages, and that's the important thing, that the knowledge exchange in the frame of the program, like you have experienced it in this frame of your own project, is also very intense if you aggregate it then on a program level. We have been supporting projects in basically 6 areas, ranging from innovation and technology transfer to transport to environment topics, energy efficiency, demographic change projects, and of course culture. So that's the broad range in which activities have been taking place in the past years. And if we zoom into cultural heritage, you are one of the projects which are linked, or which we are clustering this in cultural heritage, cultural resources. There are 18 projects which we are considering to be in that cluster. Around 31 million euro have been spent on cultural related projects in our program. But if you break it down on the sheer size of the territory of the Central Europe program, we're talking about around 3 € per inhabitant. So that's why, and this is always to be kept in mind, what you can do with transnational cooperation. It is not for funding the ongoing activities or your daily activities. It has to have another role, and I will come back to it later on. So this has to be kept in mind, what you can do, why there is the need also to focus on specific things in order to get in the end to a certain leverage effect, which we are at program level, of course, are always seeking, like here, of future investments of around 100 million euros being created through the activities which are having taken place. But most importantly, again, it is also about the 76 partners cooperating, exchanging, and institutions having an exchange of knowledge and that are progressing together in the frame of the platform which the Central Europe program was able to offer, luckily. If you're interested to see what else is there, like we are talking here we've been talking about the Second Chance project, but there are also in the, if you want to get inspired, what is there? If you want to link up, there are also, if I stay in the topic of the cultural related projects, we are supporting other projects which are looking into markets, for example, how you can use and revitalize market areas and use them for city development. We have another project looking into fortified heritage, linking up fortified heritage sites, looking into how you can manage these sites, of course, also, because we are talking also, of course, about maintenance costs and costs for the related municipalities. But we are also having other projects, which is, for example, an example of a project which have been closed, which is looking into UNESCO World Heritage nomination of the Danube Limes, just as a landmark within Central Europe. So the possibilities are broad, the ideas are large, and if you're interested in, we have made thematic booklets on the project achievements. These booklets, which are out now, are covering half of the projects we are implementing. This Second Chance is already in, and by the end of the year it will be covering all the projects being supported. I've seen at the entrance that some of the purple booklets are actually the ones on culture. I've seen that some were distributed here, so, but if you're interested, you can always go on the website of the Central Europe program and get all the information there, just to get inspired, just to get ideas, and also to maybe link up if you find a topic which is interesting to you, since the partners are working on these topics and cooperating on these topics. They will be more than happy to welcome you to participate in their meeting and to exchange the knowledge. For example, today present is here the Shift X project, which is another ongoing project, also learning and exchanging on what is being done, because the topics are linked, and this idea of bringing knowledge further, I think it's very important. Since we also want to see, as you know, and as you have all been, how can I say, forced to do so, we have, of course, to collect a lot of data on what is being done. There are indicator systems which all the project participants love a lot. So what we are doing right now is we are going into the actual results of the projects and try to consolidate them at program level. So we are conducting thematic studies on the contents of the 6 thematic blocks in which we are working. We have already finalized such a study on transport, on innovation and environment. This is ongoing and will be finished in a couple of weeks, these studies. And for cultural heritage, energy efficiency and demographic change, we are having currently open the call for tenders. So if you or any institutions you know are interested, these tenders are currently open and available at the website of the Central Europe program. These are research projects, basically, not projects. It's research assignments with limited funds for finding out what has been the actual results in a consolidated way on program level. And we expect to have these studies ready by the end of the year, so have a look on our website if you are interested in one of the topics and the results achieved. The website is structured also per these themes, so that if you're in culture, you're not bombarded by transport issues, but that you get your culture information or vice versa. If I take some lessons learned, and this was what I was mentioning before, transnational cooperation with its limited funds can and must only have a seeding function. It has to be a starting point of a process. It cannot be the end point. In a cooperation project, you are developing ideas, you're developing approaches, you're testing something, but the broad implementation has to come later, and has to come with other and additional fundings which are then on local or regional level. If I take the example here of this project, there is, of course, as we've been presented earlier, the linkage between the activities and the testing of the PPP model inside the place where we're having this conference now, and then the works the city is going to conduct on the Kulturwerkstatt with the 5,000 square meters, which is like 20 times the size of the work which is being done here, and which is, of course, if you compare the budget the partners involved here in Nürnberg had, we're talking about completely different sums. So I would say it's 1 to 30 times, or just as an idea, because we've heard before that it will cost around 15 million to work on the Kulturwerkstatt. I don't know by heart how much the budget is from the two partners working in Nürnberg, but this would be my feeling. So the actual implementation, the work has to be conducted following the project, and this has to be built up during the project. This, by involving the decision makers of your institutions, by involving policy makers, in order to ensure the sustainability of what you're doing. And not only we've heard the places we are standing in, and also the other investments in the other cities, their sustainability is secured as what we've heard, but it's also the knowledge which has to be sustained. Because it's not all about the bricks which have been placed in the frame of the investments, it is the knowledge and the linkages which have to be sustained. So it is important that the works continue, that the people are continuing to work based on the knowledge which was gained, and then that ideally you continue to cooperate and to exchange in the future. What we can see is that the higher the degree of coordination is between the different levels of governance, in the end, the higher the impact will be that the project has. This is obviously linked to the fact that the more you streamline different policy levels, the more you can move. If you have the regional level, which is not following, for example, what you are doing at local level and with your associations on the ground, but is putting other emphasis on other policies, then it will be difficult or more difficult for you to achieve something as when everyone is involved in the process and you can step forward and make big changes. As I mentioned already, their Central Europe program is not the only program, it is like a starting program, like where you're exchanging the knowledge. You can find a lot of links to other programs and opportunities in other programs, which are then allowing you to implement the activities on local and regional level later on. But of course, there are also synergies to be found between different projects and programs throughout the different European funds. And I'm sure, and I know that there are many pros and cons. I think everyone dealing with European funds is aware of that, but I share your conclusion that in the end that there is an added value in participating in these projects, and it is in the end up to the people of what they are doing of it. It is, as everywhere in life, it's always about people, and I can only recommend get the most out of it, and the most added value will be created through your project activities. So if you are looking into the future, and this was the current program, and as I mentioned, I don't think it will be so much different than from the future, especially if you look into the lessons learned of what can be done, of the added value you can create, of what really matters in the end. I think, keeping that in mind, I think the message we can pass for the future is the elaborations for the future are still ongoing, but it has been proposed that the Central Europe program will continue. It will be one of the 14 transnational cooperation programs that will exist in the future. And of course, as all policies being funded in the future, it has to have its contributions to the EU 2020 strategy. What we've been doing for shaping that new program is that last year, maybe some of you have participated, we have started a big stakeholder consultation process on what are actually the challenges and the needs on the territories of the Central Europe program. We established a sort of territorial analysis, which was like a big research work, as a basis for the work of this year. This basis led us to define a preliminary idea of a program strategy for the future program, which is articulated around 4 priorities again, which are like innovation, everything linked to low carbon economy, natural and cultural resources, and transport. This document and these ideas linked to this preliminary strategy were again discussed and submitted to a large stakeholder process. Again, we did a survey with more than 600 respondents. We did events in all member states. We had a transnational conference also in Padova with more than 350 participants in order to collect the ideas. What would be important to be supported in a new program, because you are the people in the field and you are the experts. These inputs are required, and we are currently aggregating all this information today, next week, we will be having in Vienna a steering group meeting of the members, together with the representatives of the member states of the Central Europe program, in order to see the frame, the strategic frame of the new program, to work on the topics and to progress further. So that's why I mentioned at the beginning, the process is ongoing. There are no decisions yet made, but work is conducted throughout the year. And the goal is nevertheless to have, by the end of this year, or at latest beginning of next year, our program ready to be submitted to the European Commission, and ideally to have then in the second half of 2014 the first calls for proposals, in which, and this is maybe leading me to my concluding words, in which hopefully current projects and current partners, together with also new partners, will come up with ideas and approaches which are innovative and which are going to lead to such projects like we have seen it now here today in the final results presentations, projects that are really creating added value and are changing things. We are not looking into paper producing projects, but concrete things. And I think the Second Chance project has been such a project where concrete elements and concrete realizations have taken place. And in this regard, also for your partnership, the Second Chance project, after more than 3.5 years of cooperation, is going to end at the end of September. As you have seen the frame, the first calls of proposal, as I just said, will be at earliest second half of next year. As you know, the process until the project are evaluated, are then negotiated, and are then starting with the implementation, we will be in 2015. So there is a gap between the end of your activities and new funding opportunities. So it is now up to you to see how you can continue to keep this drive, to keep up these exchanges between your partners, to see whether you can set up at least some framework in which you can continue to cooperate, because the people you are working with might be not with the institutions anymore at that stage, or might move on to other departments. So it is important that the exchanges which are taking place are fostered and are sustained in order to continue to build on what has been developed in the last 3.5 years. And I hope that notably in your meeting tomorrow, you will be discussing these points and maybe finding already first paths on which this cooperation and further coordination can take place. And then on the other side, this is for the transnational exchange. As I mentioned, transnational cooperation on the Second Chance project has this seeding function, has this function as a starting point or kickoff. So it is now up to you and all your organizations together with your policymakers and also with the other opportunities to develop and to sustain what you have been starting. Here, for example, the Kulturwerkstatt will be developed and will use the knowledge developed in the frame of the PPP approach, in the frame of the cooperation with MIB, which has taken place. That in Ljubljana, the ROG factory is going to take place, also incorporating the knowledge of the ROG lab, which is there. I've been discussing with Venice yesterday, and if I understood it correctly, the entire Arsenale has been passed over to the municipality for maintenance. So I think the knowledge which was gained in the frame of this project, I think and I hope that this can then be further valorized in order, because we're talking about huge spaces, and so the hope is to sustain what has been started and to continue with the great efforts and the great results you have already achieved. Thank you.